Hi there, my name is Jamie Ritz, and I'm a senior content lead in the iProspect office in San Diego, and I'm really excited to talk about intelligent content and how my colleague Nikki Lam and I are trying to push it forward and develop it further in our office in San Diego. So to give you a bit of context, I started iProspect about a year ago, and 3 weeks into starting, ForRent.com was onboarded as a new client. So what was really interesting about this contract is that it was pretty much split down the middle, 50-50 content and SEO, and none of the content deliverables were defined. Since I was new, and my background has been in copywriting and digital advertising in various capacities for about 10 years, I didn't know what the standard process was at iProspect till that point. And the standard process really was that the SEO team would take the lead with research and set the strategy and bring the content team in for tactical execution, namely with a tactic called authority outreach, which a lot of my team members are really experts at. And if you're not familiar with what authority outreach is, it's a really smart way to do off-page SEO and link building through developing high-quality content on other sites that aren't on the client site. But anyway, so I didn't know that that's normally how things are done, so I really approached it the way that Nikki does and the way that I've always done in the past, which is starting with some research, competitive analysis, looking at the client site, and then developing a strategy from there. And at first, things were kind of rocky because it's not the normal method or process, but Nikki and I were able to get into a groove and really make everything work very, very well together. So in Nikki's initial analysis, both competitively and with the client site, she was able to identify, a laundry list of issues from, site performance issues to technical SEO. One of the key issues that was identified was duplicate content. That was a huge problem on their site. And through my analysis, I saw that their competitors, namely Apartments.com, were just really delivering on the user's needs for information throughout the entire funnel, and ForRent wasn't doing that. I also identified, along with a UX strategist, that their site, the way that it was laid out and how users engage with it, wasn't optimized. It was clunky, their mobile experience was subpar, there was no way to really get information without leaving the site, and then you run the risk of them not coming back. So we did all this research, and then Nikki and I got together and compiled all of our analysis, and we developed what we call a content roadmap. In this roadmap, it outlines everything that we found and presents some key takeaways, and then we position our recommendations as actual deliverables that we want to execute throughout the engagement. When we went out to ForRent, I guess it was about June of last year, it was kind of scary because although they had a lot of issues, this client was relatively sophisticated from an SEO point of view. And the way that they viewed content was just to be on the blog, and it could be, DIY stuff or kind of Legos or something really not related to their brand or useful to people trying to find an apartment. And so what we were proposing not only would, require them to redesign key pages like their homepage, their find pages, which is when someone does a search for an apartment, and their profile pages, it was also making them reposition and rethink the importance and the role that content can play in their business objectives and with SEO. Luckily, they trusted enough to let us execute it, and so one of the key initiatives that we were able to execute and get off the ground and see amazing results from was the one to resolve duplicate content. So if you're an SEO and you know how detrimental duplicate content can be on a site, the normal reaction would be to just remove those pages. But in ForRent's case, we couldn't do that because they were worried, really, really worried that they would lose significant SERP visibility, and they were already hurting from a traffic perspective. And so we didn't want to, propose anything that would endanger them from losing any traffic or visibility on the SERPs. And so what we came up with was to take those duplicate pages, and instead of removing them, to completely revamp them and deliver, really high quality, user-focused content pages that are geared towards awareness and help people come in and understand like what they're looking for and where they want to move, and then hopefully incentivize them to actually use For Rent as a website to find a new apartment. And luckily, after all was said and done, we saw some really, really strong results. We had started this initiative in about July or so, and when I say start, I mean creating content briefs, doing the research, understanding what needed to be on those pages from a topic perspective. And then I developed really crazy content briefs because I knew that we would execute 24 of them with our freelance writers, but then we would be leaving it up to the client to develop the remaining 60 or 70 or so. And so anytime you have that kind of a handoff and you're trying to deal with scalability, you need to make sure that you're preparing, whatever third-party writer or resource with everything they need to make sure that it looks exactly the way that you want it to look. And so these content briefs would be sometimes 18 or 19 pages long. They would include everything from, required keywords to brand style guidelines. And when I say brand style guidelines, it's more than, this is their tone and their personality. It's also writing requirements. So, no passive voice, and give examples of what that would look like. Make sure to include really specific examples of things and don't be vague, and give, examples of what that could look like, good and bad. And then, section by section on the page, because it was about 1,200 words long, what was expected to be in each section of the page, trusted resources that they could use, and then examples of what that copy should look like, including word counts, etc. So that was really key to scalability and really key to the overall success of our story and our campaign, which was high quality, user-centric, and obviously SEO optimized. Another big area of focus for our approach is omnichannel and focusing on how we can use content and SEO to drive brand signals and to get results on the SERPs and really, share voice and drive leads through high quality content that's on all channels. So it doesn't matter if it's, on social or in email, it's still important and it still affects organic SEO because of the engagement that happens there and the trust and authority that engagement lends to the actual domain and brand itself. So that's something that's not really covered in this presentation simply because we tried to keep it concise for the people that we're presenting it to, but I'd be more than happy to go into more detail of how we propose it and really how we try to execute it with the client. I hope that you guys like the presentation and that I provided enough kind of context and background info. Again, it's really awesome for me to be in San Diego and corresponding with people all across the world. And yeah, that's it. So enjoy and let me know if you have any questions. Bye.